This is how I like to build my Airtable build-outs whenever I'm starting working with a client. So 99% of the time, you're gonna have a users table and a companies table, and then all the other tables are gonna depend on the business. So first thing I do, I rename this to user table. Notice everything's lowercase, is singular, eliminates ambiguity between singular and plural names on how to spell it and so on. So I delete everything. The first column, I name it title, right? And I'll explain why in a second. Let's add first name, last name, and we can now create a formula here, which is first name and last name together. Missing the ampersand right here. Okay, so now if I put Yodo, that's gonna be the title, right? So why is this important? The title is essentially what's gonna show on the interface if you have linked records. So let's add one more field before I show you what I mean by the title. And then user ID. So this is a formula, which is a record ID. And I like to keep it like this. So title, the ID of the record, and then any other fields. So we can now duplicate this and name this company. Title is going to remain the same. This one will be instead company ID. And then it can just be the name of the company. We'll delete this field for now. Okay, we have to remove this since we deleted that field. We're good now. Perfect. So a company can be associated to many users. So let's make that association. We're going to create a link record. So we can type here company, and then we type here company, lets you link to the company. Alternatively, you can just say link to another record and then select the table company. Allow linking multiple records for now. In our particular use case, there shouldn't ever be a case where one person is associated to more than one company. Obviously, that can change, but for now, we'll keep it as is, right? So let's select and let's actually first create a company, right? So now we have Acme. Now we can select Acme, and you see how we have that name Acme Corp. That comes from the title, right? So if we go here, John Doe or Joe Doe comes from this title. So if we change this, so let's say let's include 1, 2, 3 right, or 1, 2, 4 right in the middle. That's gonna change right here. The thing is that there's sometimes limitations with the interface, and that's why I like to keep the titles flexible. Because at one point I might want to show one thing, and at another point I might want to show a different thing. So that's why I always make it a formula. I name it title, and most importantly, I make sure to never use this field in any of my automations, such as automations that we'll build later on Make. Because if this field changes, whatever in the automation is that you have is going to change, and it might or might not break depending on the situation. So to recap, whenever I create a new Airtable base, I keep everything lowercase. As you notice, I didn't mention it, but I don't do spaces. I just do underscores. Part of the reason is when you're building automations down the road, and you see here how we have last name, and it's just, you can just click it, it's just one single item. If we had a space, it's gonna add the brackets. You see, it adds the brackets. So by doing that, we don't have the brackets. It's a little bit cleaner. It forces you to keep shorter names, because sometimes I see when I'm working with a client that already has something partially built, they might have a name that's like really crazy, really long, uppercase, lowercase, and this just forces you to be succinct. Because right now it might be really simple, but down the road there are going to be so many fields, so many things. We just want it to be clear cut and useful. So plain and simple, that's my personal best practices of how I set up Airtable bases from scratch.